Sarah Turcotte. I'm the Area Community Liaison for Bridges by Epoch. Happy to be here for our Bridges to Community podcast with my colleague.
Hi, I'm Erica Lab, Executive Director of Bridges by Epoch in Westford, and we're just so thrilled to be back with you here. The Bridges to Community podcast, we've left the couch, we're in the studio, we've got the mics, we're ready to roll. We have a fantastic guest for all of you today, and though she's not in the studio, it feels like she is because she's right there on the screen with us. We're super excited. We have Samantha Gentel, Esquire, here with us today. She's an attorney with years of legal experience, specializing in the areas of elder law, estate planning, Medicaid, health planning, and applications, as well as guardianships and conservatorships, stuff we talk about a lot. Samantha loves working with people directly and developing long-lasting relationships. Working in her chosen field of elder law gives her a chance to help people and families plan their future and put their minds at ease. And so we're going to do that today and put your minds at ease with a little time with Samantha. So Samantha, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we are just so excited to have you here. As you know, we support many families and caregivers. And as we're supporting families and caregivers, one topic that seems to come up is having tough conversations. We're really thrilled for you to be here to share your tips, because having tough conversations can be truly a gift, especially when it comes to planning for one's future. So thank you so much for being here with us, and really want to just jump right into it. And, you know, if you could share with the group why communicating their wishes is so important. Let's start off with that.
Sure, and thank you for having me. So when thinking about the future and future planning, you want to make sure your loved ones, whoever that might be, it may be your children, a spouse, or maybe a chosen family of friends, etc. You want to make sure that they know what your wishes are. You know, that can be health wishes, financial wishes, and end of life wishes. It can be a little uncomfortable to have that conversation, but it's really important, because if in the future you lose the ability to make decisions for yourself, you want the important people in your life to know what your wishes are, so then your wishes are followed.
Right. And I love that you mentioned like family can be lots of things to lots of people. Mm-hmm. And certainly we work with lots of diverse groups. And so just knowing like who are your people, and that it may not be a traditional family member. It may be people that you have chosen in your life that you trust and that you know care for you and can fulfill your wishes. So I love that piece. It doesn't have to be, a blood relation or a family member. It can be really anybody that you consider family to you.
Absolutely. And that's going to be different for each and every family. And when people are thinking about these conversations, who should they be thinking to be a part of these conversations? And as Erica said, it might not be a family member, it could be a friend, but when you think about that group or your caregiver team, who should be a part of those conversations?
Yeah, like what's the personality type? Who do you need at the table?
So sometimes you may be naming all the same people in your documents. So, a power of attorney names someone to make financial decisions for you if you can no longer make them for yourself. And a healthcare proxy names someone to make healthcare decisions for you if you can no longer make them for yourself. You may have people in your life that are better with money, and maybe some people that are really not great with money, but they're really good with health decisions and good in an emergency. So it may be you're naming the same people or different people. So, if you're naming someone your power of attorney, you certainly want them to be present to discuss your financial situation, your long-term goals, if you have a financial plan. And then if they're different than your healthcare agent, they don't necessarily need to be all together at the same time. But for your healthcare agent, you want to let them to know, any medical conditions you may have that may cause a long-term issue, and then what your wishes are. Do you want to age in place? Would you prefer to go to assisted living? And then how things would continue from there.
Sure. It's really multiple layers because everyone's situation is going to be unique and different. But it also allows the opportunity for the what ifs, right? And I think that when you're planning like that, I say it all the time, when people take the time to make these plans and have a conversation, it's a gift. It's a gift to your loved one when it comes time to making difficult decisions. It's a gift to yourself to make sure that your true wishes are being honored. So thrilled to be, having this conversation. And when people are, considering this, is there a better time to try to have this conversation? When should people be thinking about, making these plans or this caregiver team?
Definitely. I mean, the sooner the better.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in my field, we see a lot of denial, a lot of delay, because this is an uncomfortable thing to think about. Nobody wants to think about dying or being very ill. But, getting the courage to share your wishes now ensures that then the people that in your life know what they are and know how to follow them, because things can happen unexpectedly and then you may not be able to relay those wishes.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Sarah and I, and I'm sure you have seen, it's way, even though the conversations are so hard, they're even harder when you're in crisis. And so
Exactly.
you got a picture, I'd way rather have a conversation with my family about my wishes, when I'm healthy or when they're healthy and and they're not panicking. And so that, I think, like you said, the sooner the better. And so what are some tools that you have or some ideas about ways to break the ice to start that conversation?
Yeah. We also have, I think I emailed it to Sarah. I don't know if you have the ability to link this PDF. We have a workbook that's really helpful.
Oh, great. We'll get the
and
link
how to
up.
get started. But you can sort of, broach the conversation. You might, if you're planning to have the conversation, you may want to tell your loved one ahead of time, I'd love to meet for coffee and talk about this, just because it can be a little jarring if you're not expecting to have the conversation.
Right.
And sort of neutral ground. And then you can broach it by saying, that you heard about a certain situation. One of the examples was I heard when Prince died, he didn't have a will, and now administering his estate is a nightmare. I'm really trying to think about that stuff ahead of time and prevent sort of a crisis.
Yeah.
Because the way I look at what I do for a living is, because some people might think that what I do is super morbid, but basically what I'm trying to do is help people plan ahead so that when there is a crisis, it's much more manageable. Because if you're dealing with a health crisis and then, oh my God, now I need to hire an attorney to go to court to get a guardianship because my loved one never got a healthcare proxy, that adds a whole other layer of stress when you're already dealing with a stressful situation.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then understanding those wishes, a workbook, is a great way also to think about for yourself, what do I want? And sometimes we don't think to ask. It's always the big questions, do I want to live in a vegetative state, or do I want CPR, or do I want heroic measures? But it's also the little questions about that also bring to light how you want to live. And it can be a really wonderful conversation.
Absolutely.
Yep. And our workbook sort of breaks it up between living wishes, financial wishes, health wishes, dying wishes, and after wishes.
Great.
So it's broken up into 5 groups because, I mostly care, a lot of people think, oh, I need to go to a lawyer because I need a will. I care more about your power of attorney and healthcare proxy because I care what happens to you while you're alive.
Yeah,
exactly.
That your quality of life could be much better if you plan ahead and have these conversations.
Absolutely. And you can never be too young to start this process. I think, especially over the last few years with the pandemic, we've seen a real uptick in people being more open to having these conversations and making these plans. And Samantha, Generations Law has a fabulous website that they can locate this workbook. Can you just quickly share the website so people can check it out for that workbook?
Yep. It's just generationslawgroup.com.
Great.
And we have tons of ebook. We call them our ebooks. They're all up there, and then you're for free download. And we've got the conversations workbook. But then there's also a lot of other great information we have up there too.
Absolutely.
And, videos and stuff.
Super tools. And it's a great way to just even take a peek at what do these conversations look like and consist of, so that you can really wrap your head around it before diving in and having the conversation. And, you're talking a lot about plans. There's so many plans, when it comes to estate plans, wills, power of attorney. Should people have an estate plan done? What plans should come first, or what topics should they be talking about? Is there a certain order or ways of looking at it?
Yep. So theoretically, everyone over the age of 18 needs an estate plan. And that's kind of our title, Generations Law Group, because we cover all ages. We even have a young adult estate plan package for kids going to college. A lot of parents send their kids off to college. They're still paying all their kids' bills. But if something happens to their kid, they don't actually have authority to make decisions for them anymore. No one thinks about that when they're but generally speaking, you want, as I mentioned previously, a power of attorney, naming someone to make financial decisions for you, a healthcare proxy, naming someone to make healthcare decisions for you, a living will that outlines your end of life wishes. It is not legally binding, but it is a reference point for your healthcare agents for what your end of life wishes are. And, hopefully you've had the conversation with your healthcare agents to make sure they know what your wishes are. But, when faced with an end of life decision making, obviously that's very sad and stressful. And having that living will there gives them that peace of mind that, yes, I'm really following what they wanted. Having a HIPAA authorization is also really helpful. You may have filled out a HIPAA at your doctor's office saying, you can share my medical information with so-and-so. That's going to be for that specific office. But the one an elder law attorney can offer is a global document. So it can be used anywhere. And basically any person you list on that document can have access to your medical information and communicate with your doctors, but they can't make decisions for you. And I find the HIPAA is particularly helpful as you advance in age, where you're still fully making your own decisions, you're still fully in charge of everything, but maybe you have someone coming with you as a second set of ears to your appointments or helping you manage medication or something like that. And so that allows them to, follow up with your doctor, or if there's an emergency, someone can check in on you and they can't be told, no, we can't share that.
That's great advice, because that's something we miss sometimes, is that HIPAA authorization. And so the loved one calls the doctor expecting to have like this great communication, and the provider is like, I can't talk to you, like this. So that's super helpful.
Absolutely.
And another good point to make about that is some attorneys will put the HIPAA inside the healthcare proxy, but the healthcare proxy isn't useful until it's activated, which means the person's lost ability to make decisions. So you can't really use the HIPAA in that circumstance where you're trying to be a second set of ears or help someone out. So that's why I think most elder law attorneys will do it as a separate document, because we really are planning for the way long term, and we see how these documents are actually used day to day.
Yeah, and that actually keeps somebody so working in memory care, oftentimes someone is living their best life even with cognitive decline, but you definitely need those supports in place. And so you don't want to be deemed unable to make your own healthcare decisions, but you definitely want like a family member on the phone with you or able to check in. So that's a great piece of advice, especially for, if any cognitive issues. in particular.
Absolutely.
And then in terms of other documents, a will, and potentially a trust. So a will is a set of instructions to the probate court for what to do with your probate property. And probate property is property owned individually in your own name. So if you have a bank account with no beneficiaries or no joint owners, that's a probate asset. And then a house, if it's in your name alone, that's a probate asset. A lot of times the goal is to avoid probate. So ways to avoid probate is by putting property into a trust or making sure that either there are joint owners or beneficiaries named on accounts or life insurance policies, etc.
Sure. Now, we hear, trust a lot. Can you just dive in a little bit to what exactly is a trust and what makes it so important? I think it's important for people to hear that feedback.
So there are lots of different kinds of trusts. You have, just a regular revocable trust that's going to, help avoid probate. If you're dealing with a married couple, then there's also an opportunity to protect and reduce from estate taxes. If the if the couple lives in Massachusetts and if their estate's worth over $1 million, then their estate may need to pay some estate tax. So we can actually reduce estate tax by doing tax planning within a revocable trust. There are special needs or supplemental needs trusts. Those trusts are irrevocable and can help. You can set money aside for a disabled person. And allow money to be there for their supplemental needs while not negatively affecting their public benefits. You've also got irrevocable trusts. The main reason why we use irrevocable trusts as elder law attorneys is to protect property from mass health. These need to be funded before 5 years before needing nursing home care, and there's a lot of it needs to be very carefully drafted because Mass Health likes to challenge these trusts. There's also irrevocable life insurance trusts that can remove, you can have a life insurance, an irrevocable trust own your life insurance policy, and that can remove the value of the policy from your estate as well. Yeah. It's just a few examples.
That's
so helpful. Yeah.
Very helpful information because, like you said, there's so many of them, and it's important to work with professionals like yourself to make sure that it's being done right. And should people be revisiting these plans? How often are people revisiting these plans? Because the regulations and laws are constantly changing.
Yeah, we usually say every 5 to 10 years, you should have your estate plan reviewed. We actually, at Generations Law Group, have a client care program where we check in with our clients annually, especially as our clients age, then, health events can make things change a lot faster. So it's always good to be in the loop because if something needs to be updated, then we can do it.
And is this like one-stop shopping? So all of this stuff, if I think you have 2 offices, Sam, right? Mm-hmm. 2 offices. So if we came over to Acton and came in your office, made an appointment, you would talk through this. If I was your client, we could talk through all these things, decide what I need to put in place right away, what could wait a little while, and sort of make a plan. But you would walk us through the kind of that whole process. You have all the paperwork there and can guide us.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay. Absolutely.
And I also think it's important to know, obviously these documentation and planning, there is a cost to it. It's definitely a much value cost. But people can also do this in small increments, right? They don't have to do all of their planning at once. And there must be plans for people that, need to do this in chunks. Do you have different programs or steps or levels that people can start the process with?
Yeah, we have different estate plan packages, simpler packages that involve, a will, power of attorney, healthcare proxy, those documents, and then more expensive packages that involve a trust. So if someone's on a tight budget, I really never want to some people just say, oh, I just need a will. And I really can't let someone leave my office without a power of attorney and healthcare proxy
right.
too. We'd have to ask them to sign a release just because those documents are so important. but it can get expensive depending on the level of estate plan that you need. But in the long run, these plans actually help you save money. Like for example, with if there's no power of attorney, no healthcare proxy in place, that's when you need a guardianship and a conservatorship. And the attorney's fees and court fees associated with that are far more expensive than any estate plan that we offer.
And you lose time, right? You're losing time.
You lose time, you lose money, you lose the opportunity to protect assets. And then there's also annual reporting to the court, which you wouldn't have to do if you had just set up the power of attorney and healthcare proxy. And then, sometimes we'll offer payment plans as well if there's someone who is having a lot of difficulty affording our services. We don't want to turn people away,
Sure.
we'll work with them.
Well, it's such an important thing to do, and I think it's refreshing to know that there are options and there are different plans that will meet everyone's individual need. And just kind of, I know we talked a little bit about breaking the ice, but what are ways people can approach the topic? Like, is there any helpful ways people can approach the conversation with a loved one to get them considering even having the conversation? Can you just share a couple of...
I like the Prince idea.
Yeah, the Prince idea, but I think a couple more ideas as to, why it's important. Like, how can someone share the importance of it and not coming across so morbid?
Yeah. So another one we have in our workbook is, my uncle recently had a stroke that incapacitated. Well, I guess this is pretty morbid, but
scare tactics.
My niece is struggling with making decisions. She doesn't know much about her father's wishes. Made me realize I haven't communicated much about what I would want if I ever became incapacitated. And as an important person in my life, I was thinking it would be a good idea to share some of those thoughts with you. What do you think?
I like that.
Yeah.
I met with my attorney recently to update my estate plan, which includes a living will and healthcare proxy. It made me think that because you are an important person in my life, I should be sharing some of this information with you. Does that sound like a good idea to you? I was so happy to have your help last year when I broke my hip, but it got me thinking that what if something more serious happened and I wasn't able to make my own decisions? I'd really like to talk to you about my wishes, so you'll have the information you need if there's ever an emergency.
My mom and I had we had a little bit of a drill. So she and I had done her, met with an attorney and did healthcare proxy, power of attorney, which now I'm going to come see you and do my own. But it was great. We got that in place. And then it's been a couple of years. And then she had a health scare and we were in the hospital and I was sitting beside her and she ended up being okay. But we were having a really tearful conversation about the particulars of what she would want. Would she want a ceremony? Would she want to be buried? Would she want to be cremated? Where would that happen? And the intricate details of where would we have dinner after the ceremony? And we're both tearful and then the doctor came and was like, oh, it's all clear. And we were like, ah ha ha. But it forced us. We didn't know if something was happening with her brain, and we were really concerned. And it forced us into the conversation. And it was a beautiful, wonderful conversation, but it would have been a lot more pleasant to have over, a nice dinner. And so that, thinking of that and using, you're welcome to use that as an example, everybody, if you say you're listening to the podcast and wow, I never thought of that. And then, now I know those really particular things about what you would want nearing end of life and what you would want after. And I feel very much more in control because I don't have to wonder. I really feel, even though it was hard and sad, if all goes well, she will pass away before me. That's what you want, And so, at least now I have the confidence to make some decisions that I know she would be happy with.
Absolutely. And that's why I always say it's truly a gift. It's truly a gift.
Yeah.
You're not left wondering, and she can truly feel like her legacy will be honored.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of this planning process. And Samantha, besides the information and pieces that we shared, is there any other advice or information you'd like to share with the audience?
I mean, I think I've covered most of it. I just want to shout from the rooftops to please do this ahead of time.
Yes. I'm going to book an appointment with you.
I'm very good at dealing with a crisis. I sometimes find that I thrive in a crisis, but I'd much rather help you ahead of time if I can.
For sure.
Absolutely. And just a reminder, again, Samantha Gentel is from Generations Law, a fabulous elder law firm. They have a great website that you can access these wonderful toolbooks. And Samantha and many of her colleagues also offer free education. So I definitely suggest that you check out their website and take advantage of some of the tools and education that they offer. And certainly with the Bridges too, you know, we love partnering with professionals like yourself and just trying to be a resource and educate families and caregivers, because education is power. So I can't thank you enough for being here and sharing your insight and expertise with our audience. Thank you so much.
So helpful. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And perhaps we can have her back for a future topic, because she has, again, a wonderful library. So hopefully we can have you back for a future topic and share some more great insight to the audience. But thank you for listening in and for being here. And until the next time, we'll look forward to seeing you on Bridges or listening in to Bridges to Community. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Thanks, Sam.